In this lesson, we will work with order of operations, and we will have brackets and parentheses and exponents and fraction bars. So you'll have all kinds of good stuff to work with. On number 5, since we have brackets, I want to go ahead and do everything inside the brackets first. Once we figure out the value of what's inside the brackets, then we'll go back to this expression and finish it out. So I've rewritten the brackets down here, and I'm going to use this space right here just to focus on nothing more than the brackets. The first step inside the brackets is inside the parentheses. Since you've got two operations in the parentheses, you have to use order of operations to figure out which goes first. Multiplication and subtraction, you know multiplication goes first. So like I said, I had two operations in the parentheses. So I need to keep the parentheses until I use up all the operations. So I'm just gonna hold off on the bracket because all of this is in a bracket. So we've got 12 minus 8, this is squared, plus 32. Now I solve the operations inside parentheses. That would be 4. Since I no longer have any operations inside the parentheses, I can get rid of them now. 4 squared plus 32. 4 squared is 16. 16 plus 32 is 48. So this is all my big bracket. The value of the bracket is 48. So now what I'll do is come back to this expression, and now I can just go on from what I've got. The value of the bracket is 48. I'll write that and then I'll finish it out. Minus 8 minus 2. I kind of like to do it that way because I don't end up having to write the whole thing over and over and over again. I can just focus on solving that. It's kind of like a little expression inside of a bigger expression. Now, since we've got two subtraction, we just go left to right. 48 minus 8 is 40. 40 minus 2 is 38. Let's come down to number 6. That's the other one we'll do together. I've taken the brackets one more time, and I'm going to do them down here. Inside the brackets, you've got 3 squared, and then you've got two operations in the parentheses. I do division before subtraction, so I'm left with 8 when I divide 32 by 8. When I divide 32 by 4, so let me rewrite what I've got. This time I write it, it's a little bit simpler. Remember, I keep the parentheses because I still have subtraction. Every time I write it, it gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier and a little bit easier until I have just one number. Inside the parentheses first, 8 minus 5 is 3. I'll rewrite this, 3 squared plus 3. Now I'll do the exponent. 3 squared is 9. 9 plus 3. And finally, inside the brackets, the value is 12. So inside the brackets, I have 12. I put it here. Now let me rewrite the whole expression now that the brackets are simplified. I've got 13 minus 8 times 12. All right then. Since I have parentheses, I do them first. I do inside them first, rather. Inside that is 5. So I have 5 times 12. 5 times 12 is 60. And there you have it. If you should choose to do it the way I did with your brackets, you can write it off to the side so that I can see your work. Or you can write it on the paper or get scrap paper or notebook paper and write it on that. But make sure you let me see your work so I know how to help you if there are any mistakes or if there's anything that you're struggling with. A lot of times mistakes might be something that's just a little careless mistake that doesn't mean you don't understand. I'm looking for, and I can tell when I look at your work, I can see, oh, he understands. He just, saw that subtraction and thought addition. It's no big deal, but he understands everything. Anyhow, next page, we'll do 3 of these together. We've got the fraction bar again, and we've got exponents. I enjoy doing these. We'll start with the first one. I wrote out the first step. What I did when you've got the parentheses around the whole thing, it's easier to go ahead and separate it so you can focus on both the top and the bottom at a time. Because if the whole thing is squared, then the top is squared and the bottom is squared. So the first step in solving that is just separating out the parentheses into top and bottom. Having done this, it's pretty simple. I'm going to go to the side. I'll start inside the parentheses. 4 times 9 is 36. 36 squared, 7 plus 2 is 9. 9 squared. I could use my calculator and, type in 36 times 36, or I could, handwrite it. I'm probably more likely to handwrite it. I don't generally have I have my phone now. Anyhow, regardless, I could multiply that out. However, I am going to instead make this problem easier because you know what? It is a fraction. And guess what you get to do when you have fractions? You get to reduce. Yes, reduce. Reducing fractions makes them easier every time. It's unfortunate you can't always reduce fractions because it sure does make a difference. This is one of those wonderful instances where you can do some serious reducing. If you have 36/9, you can reduce that to 4. 4 wholes. 36 divided by 9 is 4. So now I have 4 squared. And 4 squared is 16. If you chose to multiply that out, 36 squared, you would get, it would have been 1,296 over 81, and then you would have divided that out. And when you do divide that out, you would get 16. So if you don't feel comfortable reducing first, then you don't have to. You can just follow the steps. You can square them both and then divide. That's one of my favorite things about math. When you understand it, you can choose different methods based upon what's going to be easier for you, or what you're better at, in fact. So now down to number 7, these 2 down toward the bottom. The first thing I did for 7 was the same. I took the parentheses and separated it top to bottom. Obviously, the bottom, the denominator, doesn't have any operations, so I didn't need the parentheses. But it was the cube. I guess I should say I took the cube and I separated it from top to bottom. So now that's cubed and that's cubed. Now I can go here. I've got 2 different operations in this parentheses. So I am going to do multiplication first. So that gives me 10 minus 12. I've got 10 minus 12. That is cubed. And then down here, I have 2 cubed. I could have, I probably could have just gone ahead and written 8. I don't know why I didn't think to do that. So here, I'm going to go ahead and write 8. 10 minus 12 is negative 2 cubed. So that would be, let me write this out, negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Then you have 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Since you've got 3 negatives, you end up with a negative product. So I get negative 8 over 8. When I divide that out, I get negative 1. So the value of number 7 is negative 1. Finally, number 10. This one's pretty basic, so I think it's probably one of the easiest, but I always feel like I should help you with the easiest because there's just this natural instinct to say, wait, that's too easy, must make it harder. And it's an instinct that you don't even realize that you do. We all do it. Anyhow, so just in case, I want to do this with you. 10 minus 4 times, then we've got 3 divided by 2 cubed. That's the first thing we do, and I went ahead and multiplied it out, which is 8. So now I've got 2 operations. I've got subtraction, I've got multiplication. I do multiplication first, so I multiply 4 times 3/8. Just in case, if you have any doubts, 4 over 1 times 3/8. I can cross reduce. That gives me 3/2. I'm going to convert my 3/2 into 1 and 1/2. So now I have 10 minus 1 and 1/2. Now, maybe you can do that in your head, maybe not. So just in case you don't automatically know that off the top of your head, let's subtract it out. These are fractions, so we have a fraction, we have a mixed number, so 10 minus 1/2. We will have to regroup, because when we try to take half away from nothing, well, we can't. So we're going to take these 10 wholes, they'll become 9 wholes, and then one of those 10 will cut into half. So now we've got 9 and 2/2, which is the same as 10. 2/2 minus 1/2 is 1/2. 9 minus 1 is 8. So I'm left with 8.5. Remember, I told you when we were working on fractions and multiplying and dividing and doing the regrouping, I told you that you would start finding this in other types of math activities. And here you are, we're doing this now. So that's why it's so important you need to know how to do these skills. Because in real life, you don't just get a worksheet with those skills. In real life, those skills are part of other work that you do. I think that you are set to do the rest of this assignment now.